everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Linux Guy. Today I'm going to be doing a video that's not a tutorial, although it's still going to be informational in nature. I'm going to talk about a lot of free, and many of them are open source projects for alternative platforms, for alternative applications, and the idea of decentralizing social media. So right now the internet seems to be just falling apart from what it once was. For those of you who remember the internet in the 2000s, it was like a free-for-all. People sort of just did all sorts of stuff on the internet, and it was kind of great. Now, there was illegal activity. There was piracy, kind of rampant back then, which is much less so now, thankfully. I'm not favoring anyone to be a software pirate or a music pirate. I think all that's bad, which is why I'm a big open source advocate, because I also think that you should be able to own things, and things should be free, but free as in freedom, not free as in beer, necessarily. That's the old Linux saying that goes around. So today I want to talk about some social media stuff. Some of it you may be aware of, some of it you may not, but I just want to go through a lot of things to try to show people what's out there. So the first thing I have just pulled up here is Fdroid, and Fdroid is a free and open source applications platform for Android phones. Now, I have this on my Android phone, and if you'd like to see more videos about this, I could definitely do some videos on Android, since it is technically Linux. It runs the Linux kernel. I run Lineage OS on my device, so I'm not big into the Google stuff. I have a completely de-Google Android phone. That's something I could talk about in the future if you guys are interested in that. So let me know in the comments. But I wanted to talk about Fdroid because I really am a big proponent of FOSS, free open source software, and Fdroid gives you a platform that allows you to do this on your Android phone. Google Play is kind of a joke, and all the stuff in there is pretty bad. There's all sorts of stuff in there that I just wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. And Fdroid allows me to have a phone without Google Play services entirely. There's all sorts of free open source applications in here that serve all sorts of functions, and I would say they're 99% of where my applications come from. I like to find alternatives to the ones that everyone uses, and I like to use what's in the Fdroid store. And I'm actually going to show you a few of those apps here in a little bit. Fdroid is the first thing I wanted to talk about. If you're unaware of Fdroid, check this project out if you have an Android phone. Now, if you're on iOS, I wanted to bring up Cydia with jailbreaking. Now, I don't like this because you have to decrease the integrity of your phone in order to be able to sideload third-party applications. And because of this, I think Cydia is kind of sketchy. I'm a much bigger proponent of Fdroid than I am of Cydia. But for those of you on iOS looking for a way to install third-party applications, I just wanted you to be aware of this. This does exist. It doesn't have the reputation that Fdroid does, though, so I just want to make that clear. Finally, on the mobile front, I wanted to bring up the PinePhone project, which I own one of these, by the way. I think that for those of us who really value privacy and freedom, this is our future. It's just not there yet. I've been running some various operating systems on there, and while some of the operating systems themselves are great, they don't run well on the platform. And then some of the operating systems are new and they do run great on the PinePhone, but they just don't have applications. They're not ready for mainstream use yet. However, this is a cool project. I own a PinePhone. I think it's really cool. It's going to be the future for open source, freedom-minded computer users. All right, this one's for all the Linux users out there. I am the Linux guy after all. Flathub.org is a website that has a whole bunch of Flatpaks. And for those of you who don't know what Flatpaks are, this is kind of the Linux answer to having software that runs on all of our Linux distributions. So one problem Linux has had for years is you may really like a distribution of Linux, but there's a piece of software that you really need to use or really love on a different platform, and so you stay on that platform for that piece of software. And that's unfortunate because you may like Arch Linux, but then you can't find a piece of software that you really like for Arch Linux, or maybe you can find it and it's in the AUR and it's really dated and you don't really trust it. You want the updated version that comes with, I don't know, Ubuntu. I'm not a big Ubuntu fan, but I do love Pop! OS, which is based on Ubuntu. But maybe it's only available on Ubuntu-based platforms, and you don't want to use Ubuntu. You want to use Arch. Well, Flatpaks are sort of the answer to that. Two of my favorite Linux distributions right now are Pop! OS, which is my daily driver, and I also love Fedora. Fedora dove into the Flatpak world, and their application library as a result is much, much better than it used to be. Check out Flatpak support on your system. It's a really great way of dealing with applications on Linux, I think. I think it's way better than Snaps because it's open. You can also spin up your own instance for a repository, so it's still got that old package manager feel without the closed nature of things like snaps. I like app images also, but I think the way Flatpaks are managed is more of that Linux experience. I can write one command and update them all kind of thing, which you lack in app images. But I wanted to bring everyone's attention to FlatHub if you didn't know about it. This is probably the most prominent repository for Flatpaks, and it's really great. All right, so now I'm going to move on to alternative YouTube platforms, and I'm going to talk about a few of them here. One of the big ones here is BitChute, and BitChute is not my favorite. There's some problems with BitChute. Well, they're pretty free speech. They're pretty open to lots of people speaking on them. They tend to lean to one political persuasion, which I dislike, and they push that, even though there's alternative things on here that have nothing to do with politics. But I do like BitChute because they have cryptocurrency things built in for tipping, and I think it's a decent platform, but it's not the platform that I would push on you. If I were going to push one, it would be LBRY and Odysee, which are these two right here. Now, both of these actually are two sides of the same coin. Odysee is supposed to be the YouTube killer, while LBRY here is a protocol, but also has a website. So the idea behind this is if you upload a video to one of these platforms, it should be available on both of them because it's federated content. So LBRY is LBRY is a protocol rather than a website. And Odysee right here is one spin of this being served up. Now, I think I like Odysee for most people who are looking for a YouTube killer because it's just more like YouTube. It has categories. It's easier to use, I think. And here's my channel on here. And I like it. What I dislike about Odysee is if you're like me, you want your content very specifically organized, and I think LBRY gives you this ability better. But both of them are actually related, so it's more like email than it is like YouTube in the sense that I could spin up an alternative to LBRY or Odysee, and it would have all of my content there because it uses a protocol. It also uses blockchain as a way to pay for things, although I've heard on some videos with the developer of Odysee, who is also the developer of LBRY, by the way, that they want to serve ads on Odysee. That's not going to be a thing on LBRY. This is just going to rely on the cryptocurrency. That's going to be good for creators as that feature becomes available. I like both of them. They're both directly related. They're intimately related to one another, but they're a little bit different in their intended goal. If you just want a YouTube killer, Odysee is probably your place. If you're looking more for content creation and you want to be on many platforms or even host your own, you're probably going to want to start out with LBRY.tv, LBRY.tv, because it's going to give you more control as a creator. But keep in mind, things posted on LBRY are also available immediately on Odysee. They share a protocol. It's more like email. So check both of these out if you haven't already. If you're on YouTube, maybe you've never heard of them before, you got to hop on these other platforms. They're a much better experience than YouTube. And that brings me to the final thing regarding the YouTube killers, and that is applications. So right now, the only application I know of for LBRY is available on Android, and currently it's only available in the Fdroid store. This may not be the case when you're watching the video, but it's been blocked from Google Play. Google knows this is an alternative. Google knows that this could destroy them. They don't really want you to have this on their devices, and they would claim Android belongs to them, which it doesn't. Android is open source, but Google Play services that run on top of every Android out there are not open source, and that's the problem. So get Fdroid if you want LBRY, because you're probably going to need it, and frankly, I'd rather get the Fdroid version anyway, because I can't audit the source code of what's in the Google Play Store, and I can on Fdroid because it's open source.